It's the 8th of June and the clematis which grows through the yew hedge produces this wonderful display of huge flowers. Beautiful. This is the yellow flag which is growing by the pond. The flowers don't last very long, but they're nice when they're out. That Irish type flower. This is another climber which appears in the hedge. It's wild. It's not planted. I take it off every year, but it keeps coming back. It's easily recognisable by the leaves. There's these long tendrils. As soon as they latch onto something, they very quickly twist up. A little coil like that. This top end twists one way, and the bottom end twists another way. You can see the middle. These amazing things you find in nature. And I've staked this pear tree which is rocking about in the wind. That great gale we got the other week. So it should be a little bit more safe now. You can see on the plum tree, the weight of these plums is just about pull these branches out of the ground. Even though the plums are only quite small. There are hundreds of them. And the strawberries are beginning to ripen. The birds are beginning to eat them, so I'm going to have to put a net on top, keep them off. Although some of them are very clever. Sort of jump up and down on the netting and then peck the strawberries through it. And the cowslips have been exchanged for these oxeye daisies. A big display. In amongst it there's lots of clovers and bird's foot trefoil. Lovely. There are lots of fine grasses. This one's quite tall. Sparrowhawk. Decimating these blackbirds. This is the second one in a week. Another flower which has appeared. There's a rugged robin. A number of these very tall things. That's speckled stem. The flowers are obviously going to be blue when they appear. And this is the yellow flag at the top end of the pond. It comes out at this time, and it doesn't last very long. It does have lovely flowers while it's out. Very beautiful. You see the pond and the yellow flag, the clematis. Wow, so many plums on a tree. I'd like to take a load off. A bucket full. And I'll probably have to go around again. But at least the branches are safe for the time being. I wonder if there's anything to do with green plums. We must have a look on the internet. The fount of all our knowledge. The asparagus flowers are coming out now, and they're little tiny things, but they obviously produce nectar, which the bees love. And this is normally heaving with bees. I can only see two. You can see just how small they are. There can't be very much nectar in there, but the bees love it. And the pollen is bright red. I've sown hundreds of yellow rattle seeds on here over the years without any success until now. And that is a yellow rattle. It's one of only two I can find, and hopefully they will spread. And there's a lot more quaking grass this year, which is nice. A fine grass found in hay meadows, old hay meadows that is. And lots of field poppies with their silky petals. Glorious. And this lovely display of these seed heads. There's more still to come. As you can see there. They look really nice, backlit by the sun. Well, this big flower spike is now in flower. There's 2 of them here and there's another 2 elsewhere. I don't know where they've come from or what they are, but they're definitely a wildflower. Well, it's a very glishy day today, to use that Westland expression. No wind, very humid and hot. Although it's only 20 degrees, but it does feel very hot. Anyway, the hedges have been cut. I've cut the hedges. I've raked it all up into piles there, which will all have to be gathered up and taken up the top of the garden and set on fire at some time. It doesn't matter how careful you are, you always miss bits. You have to go around with the shears and cut them off later. Lots of flowers on the brambles. Though there won't be many this year because I absolutely hacked it back, the other bushes. They were just taking over everywhere. Working by these bumblebees. What there are left after the badger's been digging them out. I keep being drawn to these. They're amazing things. There must be over 1,000 in the garden and more to come. And this is the red oak, which was absolutely savaged by the frost earlier in the year, and it's doing a lot better this year than it has done. And I think it's because of this mulch. I just put a layer of grass cuttings around it and it has made a big difference. It's made a difference to all the red oaks. They all seem to be thriving quite well. That pale, almost yellow, well, lime green foliage. And now that these hazel bushes are well up, the paths don't need cutting anywhere near as much down here. Well, the strawberries are coming on, now they've been netted. Keep the birds and that badger off them. There's not enough to make any jam with, but there's enough there for a few tasty dishes. Strawberries and cream. Strawberries and carnation milk. It's quite nice. Where I'm leaving the grass to grow, I'm getting more bird's foot trefoil, and the bees love it. And those white oxeye daisies behind. There'll be more and more of this, and it doesn't grow very tall, so it won't be difficult to cut back later in the year. This broadleaf plantain continues to put on a show. It's coming to the end now. But it's just a wild flower in a lawn. stamens. Not like the usual brown plantain we're familiar with. And this is the patch I normally grow potatoes on. But the dry summers take so much watering, it's easy to get them at the supermarket, to be quite honest. So this year I've just covered it with the grass cuttings. And lots of weeds coming through, but that's not a problem. And the odd potato remnant. And the beans have come through, so I'm going to have to put a support in for the beans. They do really well. If you're going to grow any crop at all, then climbing French beans are dead easy, and you get a prolific crop, and they're really nice. The only thing is you have to build a structure that they can climb up, but it's not very difficult to do. Well, I've got the bean supports in. Cleared a lot of weeds around them which harbour the slugs which eat the beans. And they'll grow away really quickly now with all this rain we've had. It's very humid, moist, quite warm today, and promises to be even hotter next week. And this is one of the little lime trees. There are 4 of them. They'll be to plant out before next year, and they get too big. But they're very good because they don't seem to suffer from any disease like ash dieback or Dutch elm disease or horse chestnut blight. Hopefully they will survive to adulthood. And here is the cat scarer. It works really well, still going. I bought it last year. There's a video about it somewhere on the blog. And it definitely keeps cats away. And you just move it about if you've got long enough horse pipe. But yeah, for 20 quid, really pleasing. It's nice, that sound of running water in the garden. And the birds love it. Especially the blackbirds and sparrows. I mean, the sparrows must be the cleanest spuggies for miles around. They're never away from this. And with the warmth and the rain, everything is growing really quickly, especially the lawn. It's going to be a blaze of yellow shortly. So I'm going to leave it. Yeah, the brambles are beginning to take off after I chopped them right back to ground level. Some of them are nearly 6 feet long already. It's the 21st of June, the longest daylight hours of the year. And the shadow here cast by this hedge, that's as short as it will get. Well, it's midsummer. Unfortunately. And this shadow cast by the hedge will start getting longer and longer by the day, which is a great shame. But there we are. Well, it's 15 years since I first started this venture. In the last couple of years, these trees have really taken off. Now, what's that bird making that noise? See if it does it again. It's in that barley, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether you can hear it or not. Well, I searched the internet for this bird call. I thought it was maybe one of these little French partridges, which there are lots of. But seemingly it's a quail, a common quail. The call sounds like wet my lips, so they say. But he did a pretty good imagination. But it's not calling again today. And it's not a bird you're likely to see because it doesn't take off. It runs about in the crop. Well, it's wonderful to hear. Yeah, a lovely flower, those. Yeah. Beautiful thing. It's all go if you're a bee. Well, this flower is called Viper's Bugloss. I looked it up. With its lovely red stamens and pink and blue flower. Yeah, it's quite something. Ah, lovely. You see several of these blue flowers out now. They're quite striking. The trefoil is very much favoured by these little red bumblebees. It's got massive pollen sacs on this one, look. There's a bumblebee on the asparagus, and you can see the pollen sacs on it. They're bright red. Yeah. This time of the year, the duckweed is quite prolific. Now, I don't normally bother with it, but when it starts getting a bit thick, I remove it. The little roots hanging down provide an absolute haven for small creatures, particularly young newts. So I'll just rake this off and I'll leave it on the side of the pond so that anything that's in there can drop back in. A little pond dipping net, precisely for the purpose. We also get a lot of filament weed, slimy weed, Spirogyra. seem to remember we did at school. I'll just tip this on the side here, just to put it in the shade, and go through it in a minute. It's really prolific stuff. There's also Canadian pondweed, the euglena, which is a oxygenating plant, but of course the blanket weed, the duckweed, tends to cut out the light, so it doesn't help. I'll just check it to see what's trapped in it. It seems to be relatively free. Usually there's a few young newts in among it. Oh, there's one there. A little newt. Well, I've just picked the last of the strawberries. I'll leave the rest of the birds. Lovely. A bit of double cream on there. Wonderful. The one worrying thing about this year is I haven't seen a hedgehog. I've seen a bit of evidence of earlier in the year, but I've had the trail camera out now for several nights. And I've seen foxes and badgers, but I've not seen a hedgehog. Oh, and 4 cats. Which is a little bit disappointing, because last year they were quite common. Every time you put the trail camera out, it was triggered by one hedgehog after another, and lovely to see. I wonder if the appearance of this badger has anything to do with it, but perhaps I don't want to give the badger a bad name. Anyway, I'll keep putting the trail camera out and hopefully they'll turn up. Because usually they come down because they do like the strawberries.